Well, the big one is here. It is upon us. It's the Star Sports and Arc Greyhound Derby final. Welcome to Paws For Thought, brought to you by the Greyhound Board of Great Britain. Derby special, and of course the final. It is upon us. 11 minutes past 9 on Saturday night, live on Racing Post Greyhound TV, and available to watch in betting shops. Also at Nottingham, 6 hopefuls will line up for a place in history, and of course that and glory that comes with it. And in fortune, the voice and knowledge of Irish Greyhound racing once again joins me, Ian, and another year where the Irish dominate the English Greyhound Derby final. Last year, of course, Priceless Blake did the business, but he was one of 4 in the final, Ian, and you've got 4 in there again.
Yeah, I tweeted something the other night. It's the third time in 5 years 4 finalists. And on those other 2 occasions, we won. Of course, JT Jet holding off Droopy Sydney, and last year, Price's Blake holding off his 2 compatriots, Ballymac Taz and Skywalker Logan. Great to be there again with 4, but it's just a one-off race now. You know, anything up to this point really doesn't really matter. It's all about what dog performs on the night. It's like an FA Cup final. It's like the Cheltenham Gold Cup. It's just an occasion. It's one of those nights now where anything could happen. And I dare say, if any of the 6 finalists win this year's Derby, it won't be a shock or a surprise to me, because it's that type of final. You could make claims for each and every runner. And yeah, I don't think it'd be as big a shock if any of these won as, let's say, an Astute Missile or going back to the likes of the Allen dog back in the day. But no, I think it's one of those finals where you can realistically make claims for every one of those dogs. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but really hard to look past the claims of any dog.
Absolutely. And it's it's a wide open final. Absolutely brilliant. 6 well-deserving finalists, and as you say, it's an occasion. It's the biggest occasion of the year in the sport in the UK, and we're very much looking forward to it. Let's jump straight into it then, Ian, because let's have a look at how they got there, I suppose, from last week's semi-finals on Saturday night. Semi-final number 1, our qualifiers were Southwood Jet, who did make all from Trap 1, Ballydoyle Valley, who battled hard again to qualify from Trap 2, and Kulavani Chick from Trap 6. A bitch makes it to the final.
Yeah, it was a cracking heat, obviously enough. Southwood Jet though got the run of the race up the inside, but again we were worried about the Trap 1 draw. He made light work of it. You know, he's just doing things right. He's just making it look very easy at the moment. Ballydoyle Valor surprised me by moving out. You know, he's looked a dog that's gone up straight from any trap he's been in. He went up straight from Trap 1 in the past. This was Trap 2, and he moved right. And with Dean Ridge Rapid moving in a bit, there was a bit of problems there. Knockable Sid failed to clear the corner. Kulavani Chick went up around the outside, but Southwood Jet was gone to the front. I thought Kulavani Chick was really going to press him hard up the home straight. When you consider that she ran away from Ballydoyle Valor up the home straight in Shelburne Park and Derby final night of her further, where she was the other night compared to Ballydoyle Valor, she mightn't have been too far away from picking up Southwood Jet. As it was, she seemed to take a false stride. Took her a while to get her momentum going again, but she did, to the cost of Distant Village, who, well, for a few strides looked like he was going to be the main, the one that was going to capitalise in the situation. But as it was, Ballydoyle Valor came 2 for second, Kulavani Chick third, but Southwood Jet again, imperious out front. Dog continues to improve, just doing everything right from the front. And again, the rails pitch, not a problem to him in semi-finals.
Yeah, he's passed every test, everything asked of him so far. So after Jet, very, very impressive. And yeah, I felt she may have clipped the rail at the third bend in. Certainly, she lost momentum, and she's battled so hard just to qualify.
I think it was a false step. I've looked at it a few times. I don't think she was anywhere close to the rail. I just get that impression from her. I don't think she ever goes near the rail. I have a feeling she was certainly a couple of feet off the fence. I think she's might just taken a false step. You know, it's one of those things that happens. Obviously, the track was very wet and sloppy, but by all accounts, it looked very safe. There was no complaints on the evening, so it was just one of those things. You know, and I was fearing that maybe she had got a little bit of hurt or something like that, but all reports since then have suggested she's absolutely 100% sound, and she is now a big player still in this derby.
Absolutely, yeah, and it takes certainly a special bitch to make it to the final. See how she goes. Right, the second semi-final. Well, a lot of the talk, Ian, was about what's going to happen down the middle here. Droopy Sydney, we assumed would be looking towards the inside. How would Wolf cope with him coming over? Well, Wolf broke well. He didn't have things his own way, but he battled hard just to win from Trap 3. Droopy Sydney, who did look after himself early on from Trap 4. He didn't dive in and hinder his own chances. He qualified. And Smurf's Machine, who showed his big early speed, he cut out all the running from trap 5, which is the box he goes from in the final. And it was a thrilling race, really. It was. I mean, turning off the last, there were sort of 3 dogs in contention.
Yeah, cracking encounter. Like, I didn't say it before the race, but I really, really did fear this contest. If the two of them were going to clash, you know, it was going to leave the door open. I was fearing that the likes of Smurf Machine, Troy Firebird would get loose on the outside and maybe Churchill up the inside and the two dogs would go out. But as it was, I literally was dumbfounded how Dearjet Sydney didn't dive inwards. I suppose it was the fact that Wolf came out racing alongside him. And we did say in the previous round that if Dearjet Sydney came out, took a bump, he then does tend to straighten up. Obviously, the sight of the dog on his inside, he went, well, there's no point in going in there. I can't get there, so I'll just go up straight. I thought he ran a big race in defeat, Dearjet Sydney. You know, for a dog that was very much a one-trick pony earlier in his career, he had to hit the front, struggling to get home. He's now a really strong running greyhound. Like, he really ran to the line and all the way into the escape, even in the conditions. He was right on the tail of Wolf. A big run by Smurf's Machine. He had a great draw, but at the same time, he still had to show the speed to get there. He had the wrong dog on his tail at the second bend. Wolf is massive down the back straight. We know that. There was no surprise to see him coming up and challenge on the third bend. The two of them were close around the bottom 2 bends, but Wolf had the inside line, and once they straightened up, well, he was only going to be the winner. Dearjet Sydney again, like doing that strange maneuver off the last bend, diving back to the inside, you know, running on well for second spot. 3 greyhounds that probably did deserve their place in the final of the 6 that were in the semi-final. And I don't mean to disparage the likes of Churchill, Holly, Lenson Whelan and Troy Firebird, but they were the 3 greyhounds that had really been performing through the Derby.
Yeah.
And as a result, you know, we basically have as strong an English Derby final as we nearly could have had. Like, I suppose the one exception is Knock the Bull Sid, that's missing from the semi-finals, but the 6 finalists that are there really deserve their place. And well, what a final we have to look forward to.
Yeah, and just quickly on Dearjet Sydney, I mean, it's been an ongoing theme almost in this Derby. Well, where's he going to be drawn? Because he's going to be looking for the inside. But I completely agree with what you're saying there, in that we saw it with Wolf, and we've seen it before with him, that if he traps well and he can almost see that rail, that's where I'm going. He's making a beeline for it. Doesn't matter what's in his way. But if the dog inside him can come away, then he will look after himself. He will think, well, there's not much point in just diving straight into the dog next to me. I'm going to look after myself, and, you know, be a foot race to the corner.
Yeah, and I suppose the encouraging thing about that is it's happened the nights he hasn't hit the lids, really hammered out. Like, don't get me wrong, on Saturday night, if he's to take a flyer, there's only one place he's going.
Yeah.
You know, unless Southwood Jet traps absolutely foot perfectly alongside him, Dearjet City is going straight in on top of him. And that's the fear for the connections to Southwood Jet. And to be honest, it's probably a fear for the connections to Dearjet Sydney too, because if he does dive inwards on Southwood Jet, like, Southwood Jet's a big, strong, well-balanced greyhound. He's not going to give up that inside line too easily. The two of them are going to have a right tussle up the inside, and that just might leave the race open to the dogs on the outside. It's just another added, you know, element to this Derby final. We still don't know exactly where they are going to be into the corner. Like Paul Lawrence's Derby Lanes, it's great entertainment and it's great information. But like that, he would tell you the same thing. If Dearjet Sydney takes an absolute flyer, he's going to dive in. But if he doesn't, he'll probably stay straight. And that's where Southwood Jet's Derby probably lies, whether Dearjet Sydney takes a flyer or not. Because if he takes a flyer, I think Southwood Jet will struggle to win the Derby. If he doesn't take a flyer, I think Southwood Jet is very much a deserving favourite, especially given the conditions in terms of no stands, no crowds. It's a different Derby. We have to remember that.
Absolutely. Well, that is a big talking point, the inside duo. Let's have a look at the draw then. On the inside, track 1, Southwood Jet, who goes again in the red jacket. He's obviously unbeaten in his career in the UK, 7 from 7. He's 3 from 3 in the 1 box at Nottingham. Dearjet Sydney from trap 2 when he looked for the inside. Trap 3, Graham Holland's Ballydoyle, Valorant, and Graham's other runner, Wolf, in 4. Smurf's Machine again goes from trap 5, and Kulavani Chick the bitch out wide. She's got a box in 6. We'll talk about the 2 down the middle. Ian, obviously being the expert on Irish ground racing, you would know the 2 down the middle, trained by Graham Holland in Ireland, better than me. Well drawn, the duo. I mean, as someone who has a few quid on Wolf anti-post, I think I would have rather have seen him in 3. But do you think they'll sort of take straight lines to the bend?
As somebody that's also had a few quid anti-post in Wolf, I'd sooner him in trap 3. But that is purely down to what I saw in the semi-finals. I couldn't
Right.
believe Ballydoyle Valor edged off. I was fully expecting him to go up straight from trap 2. He didn't. He moved out. Now, perhaps he won't move out from trap 3. He looks a trap 3 runner. I can't see them clashing, especially if Wolf comes away like he did in the semi-finals. You would imagine he'd clear Ballydoyle Valor pretty sharpish. And as we said with Wolf the night he ran against Coulivanny Chick from trap 5, that if there's room to go in, he'll go in. If there's not, he'll stay straight. And that's the old head. He's looking at
He's learned that, hasn't he?
Yeah,
He's learned
he's
that.
November 16. Like he's been around the block. Like he's nearly 4 years of age. He knows his game, and he's perhaps more the finished article now than he ever has been, which is testament to Graham Holland. They've done a wonderful job with this Greyhound, and it's great to see him back. And I just hope he does himself justice, obviously from a financial point of view as well as a sentimental point of view. He's just like, I suppose the naming of the dog helps as well. Wolf. It's hard not to like him. And he does seem to have quite a fan club on both sides of the Irish Sea. And yeah, it'd be great to see him to land the spoils. But at the same time, there's great stories in this derby, and all 6 dogs, like, you can't say any of them wouldn't be a worthy derby winner. Ballydoyle Valor perhaps lacks that yard early, but he is in trap 3. It's the first time in trap 3 in this year's derby. Price's Blake went bingo from trap 3 last year. Who's to say Ballydoyle Valor won't go bingo from trap 3 this year? I would say that as they approach the corner, he's probably showing more pace than he would be in the first 50 or 60 yards. But if you happen to get a bingo break, he probably does have enough pace to lie up very close to the leaders, if not turn on the lead. And if he did, well, there's nothing going to catch him, especially if he gets to that third bend in front, because as we keep saying, he runs that third bend like a dog on rails.
Absolutely, yeah. He's a real powerhouse, Ballydoyle Valor. Quick word on the bitch out wide, Ian. I mean, the very first episode that we recorded, I asked you how special she was, because it takes a special bitch to win a derby. It takes a special bitch to get to the final. And look back at the likes of Dolores Rocket, who won a St Ledger and a derby, and you said, well, she's probably good enough to win a St Ledger, but she's really thriving on her racing at Nottingham.
Yeah, and she's sharpened up. I'm not so sure she'll win the Ledger now. When they start doing that racing early, they probably don't finish it as well as they used to. She's very strong. She's well housed. It's, from trap 6 that when she did get loose, she did edge in a little bit to trap 5 as well. But like that, she's not going to edge in on top of dogs. If she has room, she'll move in a bit. It all depends on how she starts. If she did again a sub 5 seconds, she's going to be right there on the corner. Has a big shout. Like, of all the bitches through the years, going back to the last British winner, female winner, she's right there with a squeak in terms of the ones that have come before her. It wouldn't surprise me if she won a derby. Of course, her brother was there, or half brother was there in a couple of years ago, JT Taylor. So it's in the breeding, it's in the family. Very well bred daughter, Droopy Sydney, who, like, 3 finalists, like, that's an incredible achievement from a stud dog. But yeah, I was tempted to back her after the semi-final when I saw the prices, and I said, no, I'll just wait a few days, get the reports, and the reports are good, and she's no 8-1 chance. She's no 8-1 chance, Dave. As I said in the semi-finals, like, she mightn't have been too far behind, say, with Jetta Line. And now, when I say it mightn't be too far behind, it wouldn't have surprised me if she'd picked him up. I just think maybe the bookmakers are overreacting a little bit to that semi-final, because if you had taken out that run, she could be like one of 3 or 4 dogs in 3-1. That's the sort of final it is. If she had, let's say, not checked up between those last 2 bends, would it be surprised to you if she was starting a 3-1 or 7-2? Wouldn't be to me.
No, she's got a draw as well. Well, just quickly, I wanted to touch on something that you already mentioned there, Ian. That is Droopy Sydney, who is making some serious noise as the stud dog. He was before the derby even started, but even more so now, given the fact that he's got 3 in the final.
Yeah, it's an incredible story, Droopy Sydney. Like, Floyd Amplis did a great piece on us during the week in the Greyhound Star. He was sort of an accidental stud dog to a point. He'd very likely raced. He got injured early. Johnny Linehan trained him, taught the world of him, and said, listen, let's see if he can get, we went down back to the Droopy's boys and said, listen, see if we can get a bitch or 2 for this fella. And it was just one of those things. He clicked. I think it was an accidental mating, with, not accidental as such, but in a sense where they were the bubbly bluebird litter. He wasn't really, like, if they'd studied it hard enough, they wouldn't have gone to Bros Ranzola. As it was, that was the start of him. and he's flown since then. And in recent times, from a commentator's point of view, like it's getting to a stage where there's races now, like there could be 3 or 4 Sydneys in a race, the sort of way, and it gets a bit confusing. It's like back to the honchos back in the day, but no, he's really made an impact in a short spell of time. Like you're talking 3 or 4 years, about 3 years ago. Like he's just absolutely flown since then, and I can imagine that he's very popular at present.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'll be even more popular now, particularly should one of his progeny win the Derby itself. Right, let's have a closer look then at each of the finalists. We start with Trap 1, Southwood Jet for Richard Rees. It is a brilliant story. We touched on it at the very start of the Derby. Richard's grandfather, Phil Rees Jr., won the Derby in 1985 with Pagan Swallow. And then Richard's father, Phil Rees Sr., won the Derby in 1976 with Mutt Silver. He's a third generation trainer. And it would be just an incredible and historic story should he do the business, wouldn't it, Ian?
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable when you consider it, because how many families are in the business that long, never mind all of them producing Derby winners. No pressure on Charlie if Richard happens to win it on Saturday night, and by all accounts he's a very good speaker. He seems to love his dogs, and who's to say he won't take up the license in a few years' time. But yeah, Southwood Jet, they've got a proper greyhound here. Like he's 7 from 7 in the UK. It's worth remembering he had 11 starts in Ireland, so he learnt his game. And it's worth pointing out that he wasn't one of those flash bang wallop dogs from his first start, was doing things right. He learned his trade, and I think that's really standing to him. I love when a greyhound finds a little bit of traffic, or learns the game on the fly in his first few starts, and that's what happened with this dog. He probably realized, to hell with this. If I get to the front, I don't have to encounter this problem. And as a result, we're seeing the fruits of that labor. He's now 7 from 7 in the UK. He's favourite to win the English Derby. He's in Trap 1, and wow, it'd be a great story, and best of luck to him. As I said to you last week, he's luxury goods. He's a Rolls Royce of a greyhound. I wouldn't mind now if he was carrying a tricolour representing Ireland.
Yeah,
I can promise you that. Do I think he'll win the Derby? He won't be far away. Again, I'm going to stress that Droopy Sydney is the thorn in his side, and he could well be the thorn in his side in the first few yards.
Well, let's have a look at one of the reasons why he's favourite for the Derby with all the bookmakers. Let's go back to the first round of the Derby. In fact, we've already seen him win once out of Trap 1 a little bit earlier on in the semi-final, but he did the business again in those testing conditions, and he's proven that he can handle the inside draw at Nottingham. It's been the undoing of so many. Kevin Hutton's Magical Bow went off favourite in the Derby final last year. He missed the break, and we've seen so many miss the break, but he's 3 from 3, and it's no issue to him.
Just a professional greyhound, and as we keep saying, a really fluent, lovely moving greyhound. Doesn't seem to be any real flaws in his makeup, and a worthy favourite.
Absolutely. A brilliant story as well. His owner, Jeremy's been a long time loyal owner with Richard Rees. And these are the people that it's brilliant to see that loyalty and that commitment to the industry and the game rewarded with a journey such as this, Ian.
Yeah, and like two men that would have been in the trenches together over the years, and they've had their disappointments, they would have had their good nights, their bad nights, but they're both facing an absolute dream scenario where they could be holding the English Derby winner at the end of the lead, and that's what you're in the sport. Lose or draw, this experience will stay with them for the rest of their days. And again, win, lose or draw, their greyhound has only had 18 starts. Okay, 7 in the UK, 11 in Ireland. He's a June 18. They have another year to look forward to, really, don't they? Like, who's to say, like, the English Derby next year is going to be in April, May again? In 6 months' time, he could have another go at it. And he's not going to be 3 years of age. Dream scenario. If he happens to win this Derby on Saturday night, you've a dog that's basically still a puppy, given lockdown and whatnot, the racing that he's missed out on. And all of a sudden, he's favourite to win a second English Derby in 6 months' time. I wouldn't mind swapping with them.
Absolutely. That is Southwood Jet, who's unbeaten in the UK, unbeaten in this Derby, not since Chart King, I think back in 1999 as a ground gone undefeated through the Derby. That's exactly what Southwood Jet is looking to do. Right, Trap 2 then, donning the blue jacket first of trained runners is Dear Jet Sydney for Pat Buckley. And before we talk about the dog itself, let's have a quick word on the trainer, Ian, because I know you know Pat very, very well. I think back to 2016, Droopy's Roddick beaten ahead in that final by JT Jet. Pat has continued to come over. He's won a Scottish Derby. He's won more than one Scottish Derby. He's won, of course, the Irish Derby. And I think he would become the third trainer ever in history to win all three, have all three on his CV. He's some man, and he's committed to the cause coming over.
Yeah, he is. I actually think he looks forward to it, getting over and getting away from things. And you know yourself, he gets a bit of sport out of it. Pat's a real character, a gentleman, knows how to train a greyhound. You know, he's already had some greats through his paws. Funny enough, his most agonising night in greyhound racing was Slip the Lark getting picked up in the Irish Derby decider by Shelburne Aston, who happened to be jointly owned by Noel Hare, who's out in Trap 6, Coolavany Chick. I know he'd love to exact some revenge for that one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Dear Jet Sydney is one of those dogs where he's probably in the right hands because he's taken a little bit of time to come to himself. As I said to you earlier on, he was a bit of a one-trick pony, had to get to the front earlier in his career, was just getting to the line, he'd keep rolling. But now you look at him, he's a real strong running greyhound. And that's testament to Pat and Pat's ability. Dear Jet Sydney is the real deal. And as I said earlier on, if he hits the lids, he won't be far away.
Yeah, he'll be one to look into Maycall. And his best performance so far in this derby comes back in the second round. We go to the 10th of October. He was on trap 3. He did move inside, but he was alert at the boxes and he showed the immense early speed that he's got in.
Yeah, and 29.15 on the night. It's worth remembering. Okay, calculated 29.45, but the fastest run of the derby. And that's what you're talking about, the ability to do that. 4.92 on that occasion. If he does a 4.92 on Saturday night coming, we might just be looking at the Derby winner, because if he does a 4.92, the odds are he probably will get across Southwood Jet, because Southwood Jet can do a 4.92, but he probably has a touch more early than Dear Jet Sydney. And if he's doing a 4.92, it means he's probably, after breaking only half length or 3/4 length behind Dear Jet Sydney, he can't afford to do that on Saturday night. Yeah, Dear Jet Sydney, very, very beautiful mover again, really strong running greyhound in the prime of his life, in the prime of his form, and yeah, a real massive fancy for English Derby glory. And even though he's a really tight railer, he's probably better off drawn in trap 2 than trap 1. He just does seem to break that bit better from the middle or from further out than 1, and that could be the key to Saturday night.
Absolutely. And again, you know, we flagged him up at the start, along with Doolin Duke. He's owned by a huge supporter of ground racing, Scottishman Kenny Glenn, trained by an Irishman, trying to win the English Derby.
Yeah. All bases covered. All they need now is a Welshman to be there to pick him up at the escape or something like that. But no, you know, Dear Jet Sydney for Kenny Glenn. You know, Kenny had a very strong team coming into the Derby. He would have held hopes, but as you've seen by some of the other big owners, you know, those hopes can get dashed fairly quickly. You could have 3 and 4 in the Derby, and all of a sudden 3 or 4 of them can be gone out in the one night. As it is, Dear Jet Sydney is still there. He only started his career back in January, February time. He started out in the Juvenile Classic in Tralee. The same night that Coolavany Chick made her debut, 15 minutes between them. Dear Jet Sydney ran in the first heat, Coolavany Chick in the second heat, and here we are, you know, 10 months later, or 8 months later, I think it was in February actually, 8 months later, and they're contesting an English Derby decider. It's a good story. And yeah, again, June 18, very similar age to Southwood Jet. If he did happen to win the Derby, 6 months' time, he's a chance to win another one.
Yeah, some very unique markings about him as well, white and brindled salt, but look out for him. He'll be trying to lead up on the inside. Right, let's go to that man, Graham Holland, then. He's 2 down the middle, Ballydoyle Valor on the inside for Justin Muldoon and Pat Muldoon. And he's a real warrior, this dog in. He never knows when he's beat. He's got a massive engine, and he's the type that has just keep qualifying. He won the first 2 rounds, but he was beaten in the quarterfinals by Smurf Machine. He was beaten by Southwood Jet in the semi-finals, but he certainly doesn't shy away from any sort of battle. And yeah, he wants it, and he's bang there.
Yeah, I've always stressed with this dog, I think he thrives in racing. I go back to one of the greats, Farlow Melody, back in 1992, who for his first 25 starts was a good dog without being a great dog. And just the more racing he got, the better and better he got. And Ballydoyle Valor is one of them. Last year, it was clear from the early stages he had a big engine, but just wasn't putting it right. last year's Irish Derby came too soon for him. But soon after the Irish Derby, he started making these giant strides to where he is now. A really top class, strong running greyhound. Came back this year, a couple of big runs earlier in the year. Lockdown sort of halted his progress. Came back, looked really off the pace in the Irish Derby. But you were just getting those little glimpses. He's getting back to it. And it was the night he was second to Coolivany Chicken Irish Derby final night. You went, there we are. It's after clicking. He's back to himself, Ballydoyle Valor. Ran a huge race in defeat that night. And as a result, I had a couple of quid in him each way when I knew he was going to England. Because, as I said to you, at the start of this competition, when other dogs are coming backwards after the 5 hard runs or 4 hard runs, this fellow will just thrive on it. He's going to get stronger and better. And it would be no surprise to me if we saw his very best performance of the Derby on Saturday night. Probably does lack that yard early, as we said. But if he does happen to take a bingo break from trap 3, which can happen, as we saw 12 months ago, Ballydoyle Valor is a player. And again, another one at a big price that be no shock for me if he won the Derby. You know, I was far more shocked, let's say, than with Astute Missile than it would be Ballydoyle Valor.
Do you think he should be the outsider in?
Given the draw, perhaps not, because if 1 and 2 do clash, and that's a distinct possibility, he just could get to the fence. And all of a sudden, massive player. The way he ran home last week. The problem is if you don't make him outsider, who do you make outsider? Like Smurf's Machine also has leadability claims. Coolivany Chick is very well housed on the outside, and we've made claims for her. So, you know, something has to be the outsider. He deserves probably to be biggest price runner in the field, but in a very condensed market. You know, 6 to 1 would be plenty big enough. Like Southwood Jet at 9 to 4 is plenty short enough, given the quality and the open nature of this final. You know, it could really be a 3 to 1 the field race.
Yeah, I agree.
With the outsider 6 to 1. You know, that's how open it is.
Absolutely. Let's have a look there and at one of his notable efforts. This was in the second round on the 10th of October, and he was stranded out in trap 5, Ian, but it was no problem to him whatsoever. And you wouldn't think being in 3 for the final would be any issue.
No, went up straight as a die from trap 5, moved in when he got the room. It was only towards the winning line that he started to edge in. Showed big pace down the back straight. Challenged on the third bend. Didn't go gung-ho. Sort of waited his turn. You know, there was no point in making any mistakes. You know, cruised around and then just galloped strongly up the home straight. Like he's, in Ireland, we call him a real 600-yard greyhound. He really gets to the winning line. He'll go a little bit further. Just so much to like about him. And again, another very well-bred greyhound. Like, he's out of Fearamuskie, and we know what a beast she was. Like, she was an incredible performer. And Ballydoyle Valor, just such a likable greyhound. And as I said, he runs that third bend like he's on roller skates. Like, he just cruises around it, and could be a very vital point in this year's Derby final.
Yeah, great mover, and good story as well. Spotted by Graham Holland, the trainer. His son Timmy Holland recommended to the owners, who have had a few dogs with the Hollands. Have they, Ian?
Would you believe I'm not too sure? All I know is that they're very enthusiastic about it, and they love Valor, that's for sure. I dare say they'd have a bit of a party now if Ballydoyle Valor was the land of spoils. You know, I know Justin and Pat are really, how would you say it? They're really in this Derby journey. You know, they're feeling every single stride, and I wish them the very best of luck, because he's a greyhound that I've liked for a long, long time. Do I think he'll win it? Perhaps not, but it just would be a surprise if he did.
Yeah, and just a line on him, Riverside Honey, the stayer from the kennel, she travelled over, and they're kennelled together as well. So he's got all his home comforts. It might be in a different place. Obviously, Nikki, Graham's wife, is currently staying with Dave Firmage, who's not far from Nottingham. But Riverside Honey, she's on the supporting card, and the bitch that he would be kennelled with back home, he's sharing a kennel with over here.
Yeah, he's probably seen as the paternal uncle to Riverside Honey's puppies, because she has puppies, you know. It's strange when you hear about dogs and bitches kennelled together, but I know it happens all the time. But just might make that little bit of a difference. Happy in himself, and you know, have his buddy with him.
Right, let's move on then to Graham's other runner in the final. Wolf in trap 4 has really captured the imagination of so many within the sport. I think, Ian, really a dog that you could argue he's got unfinished business for the English Derby. Last year he turned up. He was not known too well over in the UK. You guys knew he was fast. He was a serious dog, and he was backed accordingly in the first round. And he claimed the notable scalp of the defending champion at the time was Dorota's Wildcat. And then in the second round, he was all for all money going to qualify, and a bizarre incident. He stopped chasing at the third bend. He was unfortunately knocked out, and then he got beat in the Derby Plate final. But he is back, and he is a runner.
Yeah, he was a dog for much of his career, had unfinished business. He got the big race success this year in the Easter Cup, the oldest event on the Irish calendar. Thoroughly deserved. That was behind closed doors, lockdown, quieter stadium, everything right on the night. In the final, but showed great speed and pace to get there. As I said to you before about the incident last year, that nothing happened prior, nothing happened since. I just think it was one of those things. Spotted something or thought he spotted something, and again, he's had umpteen races since then and never even looked like doing anything like it. I'd completely ignore that. I've completely forgotten about it. A massive player, even though he's older. The 3-month layoff this year, after coming out of the layoff, it looked like, wow, that's the end of Wolf, because his form wasn't good. But just again, each start, each race, each trial, he's improved and improved and improved. And we've seen him, well, if not at his very brilliant best, the sparkling form he used to show every now and again, he's been very consistent, and he's still a massive galloper with a huge engine and a big player again in this final. It'd be great to see him. I know he's named to win it, and he's very popular, but by all accounts, he's a big player. If you take all that aside, he's just a very, very talented greyhound, and I know there'll be massive approval down in Cork if the Maloney's won it, because they're a very, very popular family. And we referenced it last week that he's not even probably the fastest dog they've ever had. When you think of the likes of Sonic, who was in 2 Irish Derby deciders, absolute airplane, it just goes to show they're probably due not just a big race success but a Derby success.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's have a look at him then. Back in the quarterfinal, 17th of October, he was out in trap 5. He won his semi-final from 3, but this was a very taken performance. 29.47. It looked a tricky draw, but as you rightly said, Ian, and you was confident he would get the job done on this occasion. If the racing room is there, this fella will run into it and run into it fast.
Yeah, he's the epitome of a greyhound that's learned his trade over time. He's not doing silly things. It's a joy to look back on this heat, because yeah, I went all out and said 5 won't be a problem. If he hits the lids, he'll win. And as it was, he came home a couple of lengths clear of Coulivanny Chick, who ran a big race in defeat. Really, really impressive run by her in defeat on that occasion. But Wolf, you just see by him, he's just a really powerful, strong running greyhound, and has a bit of class. He has early dash, motors down the back, and he's getting to the line much better than he did in his youth. And that's been the key to his success in recent times.
And a word on Graham Holland, and in particular Nikki, who's been over here away from the family. I know she's missed family birthdays and etc. But they are a kennel that are knocking on the door as well. We think Clonbrine Prince last year, 6 railers. He ended up with trap 6, and it was a tall ask from there. Claire's Rocket, of course, is one of the fastest dogs we've seen in recent years. A powerful kennel. Surely, Ian, it's only a matter of time before Graham Holland wins a Derby, and it could be this year.
Yeah, if Claire's Rocket had ever turned up at Nottingham, I'd have backed him at 6-4 before the first round of a Derby. He was just made for the place. I think he'd have done sub 29 seconds around Nottingham. He was just an absolute airplane, a machine. Clonbrine Prince, as you say, one of a number of fantastically fast greyhounds they've had in recent years, but Wolf is probably just that bit better in terms of overall pace and overall speed. They're an unbelievable outfit. What they're achieving over here is just incredible. We said it about Paul Hennessy back in the day when he was throwing out 400 winners a year. The Hollands, every single competition they throw dogs into, they're thereabouts in the closing stages. They've won 3 Irish Derbies in a very short spell of time. I dare say they've won their 3 Derbies faster than any other trainer in Irish Greyhound history has won their 3 Derbies. So, and by all accounts, who's to say they couldn't have 4 or 5 by the end of this decade, maybe even more, because they just seem to produce those dogs every single year. And the likes of Wolf and Ballydoyle Valor, Ballydoyle Valor will be 4 in March, Wolf will be 4 in next month. Their dogs hold their form so well over such a long spell of time. That's testament to them. It's obviously they're so well looked after. They are getting checked out all that often. Injuries just don't seem to go undetected in the kennel. It's a great sign, and you see Timmy and you even see young Rachel, and every single person there is completely dedicated to the craft. And I said it in the Irish Derby final night on Racing Post TV. He really is a master trainer, but he's also surrounded by the right people, and the results are there for everyone to see.
Absolutely, real powerful outfit. They entered 6th. They've got 2 to the final, and you know he's Irish trained. We'll give you that, even though that Graham is English, because we move on to track 5, one that we claim, which is Smurf's Machine, trained of course by Seamus Cahill, the Irish Hove trainer. Smurf's Machine, only 14 races into his career in the UK, Ian. Another one of these greyhounds is a June 18 who's very lightly raced for his age because of lockdown. He's still learning his trade. I'm sure the owners, Rick Martin, Miles Simmons and George Williams, are enjoying the journey, and some journey as well, because he is for that early lead in the final.
Yeah, very much so. Like he's the dog with the second least experience. Like Coulivanny Chick is the most inexperienced runner in the lineup. Smurf's Machine next, and we've seen that he's just taking leaps and bounds. Like I liked him in the opening round, but I just thought to myself, there's the dog that'll go a couple of rounds. Do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden, like from doing 509 and 505, 491, 494, and given the draw, Wolf will definitely not edge out, and Coulivanny Chick won't edge in if there's no room. He's going to be getting a clear run into that opening corner, and if he does a 491 again, well, he could easily lead around the bend in the Derby final. And where do you want to be in a Derby final? Out front. And it'd be no surprise to me if he won. Of course, a brother to Trap 2 Dearjet Sydney, although I notice Droopy Sydney is a different spelling for some reason with him as it is to Dearjet Sydney. But yeah, really, really like him a greyhound. And Seamus has won a Derby before.
Yeah.
You know, that experience will stand to him. It'll stand to his greyhound. And Smurf's Machine owners can start dreaming, because, as I've said, in a Derby of this nature, any dog has a big claim, especially a dog that can go around that corner in front.
Yeah, but go back to 2017 at Toaster, Astute Missile, 28-1. And as you've already hinted there, Ian, Smurf's Machine won't be anywhere near that sort of price, will he?
No, absolutely nowhere near it. I think you can get about 7 or 8 to 1 at present. Because there's no on-course bookmakers this year, we're depending more on the off-course layers. He's potentially one of the dogs to go drift on the night, because the UK money will probably come for Southwood Jet, given the fact that he's not a very short price, and you'd imagine there'd be weight of money for a number of the Irish runners. He could be a dog who could drift on the night, but that doesn't lessen this chance any. You know, for me, he's a 5 or 6 to 1 chance in this Derby, no bigger.
Absolutely. Well, let's have a look at him. Then you mentioned the first round effort. He was out of trap 5, and he wasn't great from the boxes, but whoosh to the corner. He's got fantastic early speed.
Yeah, funnily enough, I actually wrote on my card that night, good, strong, one pace. And by that, I meant like that he just does everything right, goes to the corner, goes down the back and stays on strongly. Since then, he's become more of a early pacer. Probably not as strong as I actually thought he was, but like that's not taking it away from the greyhound. It's just that he's very good to the corner. And like he's motoring down the back straight. Like he did well to even be still disputing the lead at the third bend last week, because Wolf is exceptional into that third bend. And Wolf got the inside line of him. And the fact that he's still nearly on Wolf's shoulder at the last bend is testament to how well he's running and how strong he was running around those last 2 bends. As I've said, if he hits the front and he's, on top of the ground next week in trap 5 at that third bend, it's going to be hard enough to pick up, because he's 29.49 in his card. He's capable of doing big run again, a leading player, Smurf's Machine, and don't dismiss him.
And I think it counts for a lot, the fact that Seamus has won the English Derby. I think he's still improving, and he is in the hands of one of the best trainers over here in the UK, Seamus and his wife Teresa. Bought out of Youghal after winning 11.5 lengths, and an Irish track in which the form is standing up quite well over here at the moment, Ian.
Dearjet Sydney, Wolf and Smurf's Machine all would be classed as Youghal greyhounds. Dearjet Sydney didn't start his career in Youghal, but he had his first race in Tralee in the Juvenile Classic, but that was because of the runs he was doing in Youghal. They thought, we have a dog here, let's run him in Tralee. Listen, it's an absolutely, every year just the class of greyhound that comes from down that area, and the school around Youghal is just amazing. And to think that Youghal was in serious danger of closing just up to recently, it's been given a lifeline, and thankfully it has, because if this is the level of quality that's coming out of the place, well, we can't afford to lose it. And I know there's one or two other English Derby winners in the past that have Youghal form. I think the Rising Dog had Youghal form, and was Taylor Sky from that down that part of the world as well. It's incredible. Like, Youghal is really punching above its own weight in terms of its profile. But year in, year out, they just continue to produce those dogs. And I know Barry Drake, my own colleague over here in Ireland, he's a Youghal boy, and he's not afraid to beat the drum, and he continues to do so. Like, the dogs hadn't passed the line the other night, and the three of them, first three in the second semi-final, all started in Youghal. That's incredible. Yeah. When you consider it, an English Derby semi-final, and the first three home are Youghal greyhounds, effectively.
He's a good lad, is Barry. Very loyal to his track, absolutely. And finally, trap 6, Coolavani Chick out wide. Can the bitch serve it up to them, Ian? Just the one bitch has made the final. There wasn't too many entered into the 96 field. They were a talented bunch. She's the only one that has got this far. Tell us about the trainer first, because I spoke to Noel after the semi-final third on Saturday night, and he was telling me only his second ever entry in the English Derby, but he clearly knows the time of day with the greyhound, and he's really getting a tune out of this bitch.
Yeah, a shrewd individual as Noel. Obviously has tasted Derby glory in the past with Shelburne Aston, won the Irish Derby, won the Champions Stakes that year, had an incredible year. Didn't train him, of course. His great pal Pat Curtin trained him, but in recent times he's been making waves. He always, as I said last week, he's always has a good breed about him. He only buys the very best of pedigree, and of course Coolavani Chick is a half sister to JT Taylor, who Noel had prior to selling to John Turner. He also has a couple of good dogs at the moment. Coolavani Kaiser, who he bought off Noel Brown. He probably bought this one off Noel Brown, but it was bred by Brendan Matthews. So, like, it's gone through the hands of some really, really, like, top greyhound names in Ireland. She's a very, very fast lady, and Noel, by all accounts, he's a cool character. The pressure's not going to come down to lead onto this lady. She'll get the same treatment she always gets. Noel will make sure she's absolutely primed and ready to run. And his character is important. Like, yourself in the week up to a Derby final, the person at the end of the lead, they're as important as the dog themselves. And Noel won't be sending down any negative vibes. He's just a really cool, sort of laid back fella, knows the time of day, as you say yourself. And it wouldn't surprise me now if he added to the likes of Shelburne Aston and got more classic success. But I've said that about all six of them. It's just that type of race. If she goes bingo, if she does a 495 or 494, she won't be far away.
Yeah, and a great story on how she's ended up being entered in the Derby is that you mentioned that John Turner, his trainer obviously being Paul Hennessy, they purchased JT Taylor off Noel, and Kevin Hennessy, Paul's son, rung up Noel, I think one night after racing at Shelbourne Park, and inquired about a bitch and trying to buy to obviously switch kennels, and they got chatting, and Kevin has said, what are the plans with Coolavani Chick? And I was like, I'm not really sure yet. And I think Kevin was quite insistent that he travel. Should be well suited to Nottingham, and my God, he was right.
Yeah, Kevin's some man to talk now, in fairness. He probably recommended 50 other things that night at the phone call. But yeah, it's a good story, and I know Noel will owe Kevin a drink if he happens to come out in front on Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be taking plenty of credit for that as well. He's a good lad, is Kevin. Let's have a look at Coolavani Chick then in full flight, Ian. We go back to the second round, 10th of October. She's raced from trap 6 in every single round. 4.99 split on this occasion. She was given a little bit of a scare by Antigua Boy down the back with his middle speed, but she stays this trip ever so well. 29.52 on the board, and they wouldn't want to be giving this one a start in the final.
No, this was at a time where we kept saying, "Oh, she has a flat spot down the back straight," and perhaps she is saving a little bit for herself when she does lead, because when they come to her, she kicks again. And we saw that in Irish Derby final night with Ballydoyle Valor of all dogs coming to her at the third bend, and she kicked to get up the home straight. In recent times, she hasn't really found that flat spot down the back straight because she's been led. It's just interesting, they're animals, they're not machines, and there's just a will to win inside her, no question about that, because her run subsequently behind Wolf and Southwood Jet, she really flew down the back straight. So, as you say yourself, if she did get to the front, they may well challenge her at the third bend, but if she's alongside any of these 6 greyhounds off the final turn, she'll beat them home. She's very, very strong. And another, I've said it with all 6 of them, but she has to have strong claims. Again, she's very well housed. The draw couldn't have worked out any better, really, in terms of the 6 greyhounds. Perhaps she'd swap Southwood Jet and Dearjet Sydney in terms of making sure they all got an absolutely clear passage. But by all accounts, they're all very well housed, and yeah, she's there with a claim on the outside. She's the sole wide seed. We know she's going to go up straight for much of the way and edge in slightly if she gets the room. And she's galloping strongly and a bitch in form. You don't want to oppose them.
Yeah, and I know Noel very keen to show his appreciation to Nick Brereton and Carl Perry's, that obviously stand at the Alford Kennels, the G-Low Kennels, as it were. Sheffield trainer Carl Perry's he's staying with them. So, yeah, he's very important, obviously, with everything going on in the world anyway. But year after year, Ian, we see the Irish stay over at kennels here. They set up base, they set up the home comforts, and it does make a huge difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference, and like great friendships are formed as well, and obviously great alliances. You know yourself, there's channels in greyhound racing where you see the same men buying off the same men, and it's great to build those connections. Like, I go back to the glory days of the Westmead Hawks and all these. Like, I remember during those years, Westmead Hawk picked up Minnie Olafarlow. I think they were kennelled in the same block. Like Graham, Seamus Graham was staying with Nicky Sava, and there was years where Fraser Black was also staying with them. You had some clout in that kennel block. It's great to see. Really the same kennels, and I know even Liam Dowling last year stayed with Peter Herndon and
local,
yeah. They had a great time there, and I'm sure they'll be back next year if COVID-19 allows.
Absolutely. Well, all the action will, of course, be live to watch on Racing Post Greyhound TV on Saturday night. The final is at 11 minutes past 9 from Nottingham. Sky Channel 175, Freesat 176. Be streamed on the bookmakers' websites and, of course, on the Racing Post website, groundbet.racingpost.com. The supporting card is brilliant as well. Quick word on that, Ian. We've got variety throughout.
Yeah, great variety. You have races over all distances. You have a bitch race. You have veterans race. You have British breds. You have finals. It's just great to see 3 staying races, which is brilliant. Over the 3, looking forward to Durando, which it's a great way to finish the night. You can't beat an 8-bend race to finish off a night like this. It's just, yeah, that's going to be great. It's like this added bonus after the Derby. You have the Durando to look forward to. Yeah, cracking racing from start to finish. Ask you though, Dave, what wins the Derby?
Oh, I was going to ask you that. That was my next question, Ian. I think it's wide open. I think I'm going to sit on the fence a little bit and say that anything can win it. But hard pushed, I think Southwood Jet is the dog with his fate in his own paws. I think if he traps to the best of his ability, I think he will just boss things on the inside, and that might be that at the second bend. He'll kick clear and be gone. What about yourself, Ian?
I'd just like to point out that Wolf has been faster than the last 2 nights. And there's a little niggling thing there with me that if Dearjet Sydney just even brushes Southwood Jet, it's just going to throw this race wide open. Funnily enough, I actually thought when I saw the draw, I'm just going to go for Dearjet Sydney to go bingo, get to the fence and lead all. I might just change my mind to Wolf. Just feel that, yeah, he's due a really big one. He's November 16th. It's his last hurrah, effectively. I'd love to see him win, and I'm going to go for Wolf to beat Dearjet Sydney. Cool if any chick third. Sorry, Dave. We're going to do 1, 2, 3 again.
Now, I've got to ask you, Ian, before you go, I'm assuming you'll be watching the race from Shelbourne Park, will you? You're working Saturday night?
I'll be in the commentary box at Shelbourne Park doing the Sporting Press Irish Oaks. If they're being brought to traps at the same time as the English Derby, you can be sure you'll hear the commentator saying, delay, delay, delay. I will make sure that they know where the dogs are behind the traps in Nottingham, so there is no clash, because you can be absolutely certain that anybody that's at Shelbourne Park will be cheering on the Irish runners as well.
Well, that was going to be my final question for you is how big is it an event, the English Derby, over in Ireland? Will everyone stop what they're doing in the industry over there to watch and cheer on the four Irish Greyhounds?
It's massive. It's absolutely massive. It'll be everyone around the TV. That's what'll happen, and it's been largely like that. Obviously, you have people bringing dogs out to watch races and stuff like that, but you can see people with phones out, and you know exactly what they're doing. They're keeping an eye on Nottingham, and everybody has an opinion over here. That's the one thing we all have. We all have an opinion in Ireland, and I think most of them are favouring an Irish trained runner. But I do my own podcast on a Monday with the Irish Greyhound Board, or the Greyhound Racing Ireland is now known, and Tommy Lyons suggested that with Jeff was the right favourite, and it's hard to disagree with him, because as you said, Dave, one greyhound that has his own fate in his hands. If he does trap level from the inside box, he's most likely going to go around in front, and if you're in front in Derby final, you're there to be shot at. It's hard enough to pick them up in the final. How many Derby winners have come from off the pace? It's easy to refer to the likes of Moral Standards and the Westmeath Hawks of this world, but not too many over the years.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. Do check out Ian's podcast and YouTube videos on a Monday night. It goes out, Ian?
Yeah, it goes out at 7:00 on a Monday. We basically, at the moment, we're talking Laurels, we talked Derby, and now next week it'll be talking Ledger, because our own Ledger starts in Limerick this weekend.
Yeah, and I'm sure the English RPGTV St Ledger will not be too far behind that either. Listen, Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure dissecting this Derby with you. I can only thank you. It's been absolutely brilliant. Your expertise, your knowledge on all things Ireland, and you're confident it's going to be an Irish train winner.
I was more confident a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, I didn't expect England to have the favourite in the final, but listen, we've 4 there. We'll take it. We only started with 14. We've 4 left. It's an incredible achievement, win, lose or draw. I just love to finish it off now with the cherry on top, and just hoping for an Irish train winner. But listen, all 6 greyhounds are worth their place, and there'll be no such thing as a lucky Derby winner, because all 6 deserve to be there, and all 6 have realistic claims. As I said earlier, it's a cliche, but every single one of these dogs has a claim of some size.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ian, and thank you to everyone watching as well. Do, of course, check out all the GBGB social media platforms. Thank you for watching. Do like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, of course. And finally, a good luck to everyone involved in the final. That includes the track as well. I've put on a tremendous show under testing conditions and circumstances at the moment. And good luck to all 6 finalists. Thanks for watching.